All right. Well, I can't believe it's Friday again already, but I feel like I woke up on Monday and then the next day was Friday. It's gone by fast, but welcome back to another episode of MVP. We're gonna call it the real estate podcast, but today it's more credit repair, which, as much as you could say it's not real estate, there is so much with your credit that goes into real estate,
Yeah,
especially if you're trying to buy.
yeah.
So
We're gonna refinance our home, and so my husband and he actually contacted Steve so that his credit score can get better, so that we can get a better interest rate when we do refinance, because we want to add on to our house.
yes. So it won't be an X's and O's kind of real estate, but if you are looking to buy real estate, refinance, anything, um, tune in for the advice Steve's got for us, who specializes in credit repair. So thank you for coming on and giving us the Friday. It looks sunny where you're at.
Well, we're in California, so you know what they say, never rains in California.
It doesn't. We got ice yesterday, like
Oh.
hail,
Whoa.
basically.
Oh,
It's
no.
April, which is great.
Well, we have the weather. The people I can't defend, but the weather is great. But you know, it's so funny. Just Marcus, taking you back a little bit. I don't know if there's something you and Natasha are aware of, but over 75% of our database comes via referrals from realtors and loan officers. Funnily enough, I don't know if I've ever told you that.
No, but I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Well, typically what happens is when somebody wants to purchase a house, they don't really have a good understanding of credit. So they contact the LO or the realtor, and the realtor sends them to us. We look after them, fix their credit, give them back to the realtor. And now the realtor has a fully qualified client to actually work on. So yeah, and funnily enough as well, I used to be a loan officer. So my background is actually in the mortgage industry, which is very advantageous to LOs and realtors because I understand what they go through.
Yes.
You know, having a good empathy. It's okay understanding the client, but it's also very important to understand the realtor or the LO.
Yeah.
And you know, I say this to realtors, and if you're watching realtors, you know, you saved me making a new video. So here goes, watch this. The average house value in America, if you take away California and New York, the average house value is $300,000. As a realtor, if you have a client that buys the property, typically you get a 50% commission, which is 3 points.
Mhm.
So 3 points of 300,000 is $9,000. That's how much a bad lead costs you when you throw it away. Just think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
So typically every client I return back to a realtor is worth $9,000 to them. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is, our part in it is very important. And also, again, without tooting my own horn, I do believe we are the only credit repair agency, probably on the planet, that opens 7 days a week until 8 o'clock at night, California time. And that's purely to service realtors and LOs because they get busy during the weekends. So,
Yes.
so there is a big tie-in anyway, is what I wanted to say.
Yeah. No, that's super cool that I did not know that that was the average sale price of a home.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what it is?
Take away California and New York, throughout America, 300,000 is the average. The average house value in California is probably close to $1 million, just so you know.
Yeah. I was talking to, I've got a broker friend out in California. They're in the San Diego. It's a little bit north of San Diego, whatever that area would be.
Yeah, I know where you mean. My son goes to university in San Diego, by the way. So beautiful place.
He was talking about the home sale prices and the square footage out there. And I was like, I like Wisconsin a little bit more. It's a little bit more reasonable because the prices out there were just like skyrocketing, something insane.
But actually, I'd be wondering, if you think it's insane in California, when I first came to America over 20 years ago, I started off life in New Jersey. And anyone who lives in New Jersey, and I don't mean to diss you, but I spent every weekend in Manhattan. So the best thing about New Jersey is it's close to New York. But
Yep.
if you think the house prices are nuts in California, try checking out Manhattan. You know, I was dating this lady who had it literally must have been like a 400 square foot apartment, and I'm going back about 20 odd years, and she was paying well over $1,500 for that small apartment where you couldn't really walk or turn around. So
Yeah.
anyway, so
We went out to New York. We had to meet with our financial institution, which is based out there. So we're out there, and obviously in real estate, you take the opportunity to go into a different market and see what's out there. So we went on a couple of tours while we're out there, and obviously walking up and down the street, you always look at like, okay, this building, and we'll write it down or like type it in our phone to take a look. And we're trying to ballpark like what it would be. And it's a fun game because we're not in the market. So it's like, what do we think? We're off on like all of them because we're Midwest skewed. And we're like, how is that building or how is that unit going for that price?
That's funny. But again, just going back to our topic for a minute about realtors and loan officers. One thing, and I get this more with new realtors and loan officers who don't quite yet have a full grasp on the market and how to do things, are still stumbling around.
Yeah.
When I talk to them, I explain that credit repair is not just about your credit score. And I think this is a good place to make that point. Credit repair is really, it includes trade lines. So what is a trade line? When you get a credit report and you read it, you'll see that your credit score is at the top. And then underneath there are a lot of lines, like you might have a Visa card, you might have a car loan, but those individual lines are called trade lines, okay? So you can have, and I don't think we covered this on the last session, but you can have someone with an 800 credit score who does not qualify for a mortgage. Did you know that?
I didn't. I didn't.
Okay, let me briefly fill you in on this one. Even higher than 800, they might not qualify. Or let's lower it, even 700. And this is why. They have what's known as a thin file. So a thin file means there are not enough trade lines on the credit report to justify a mortgage.
Okay.
See, any lender, whether you're going out to buy a car, a house, or anything, what they want to see is that you can handle various different types of credit and handle it responsibly. You can understand it. If someone came up to you in the street, Marcus, and said, lend me $1,000, you'd say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know you. Tell me about some of the other loans you've got. How are you paying those back? So you understand that's where the lender comes from.
Yes.
So a thin file means there are not enough lines on the credit report to justify a mortgage. Now, as it happens, we are a credit repair specialist, but we also specialize in credit boosting. In other words, we are able to take that file and add a few trade lines to make sure that the client will qualify for the loan from the lender. So that's an instance. Now, different loan officers have different lenders that they deal with. Some lenders don't want to see any lates at all in your mortgage payments. So you can very well have, and we have 3 clients at the moment this month, 3 new clients that all have a 700 plus credit score, and every one of them have lates on their mortgage. So it's funny. Now that's the only error that they have on their credit report. But, there are certain circumstances where trade lines are as important. For instance, and this is my favorite. People say, what is your favorite thing to explain? Here we go. Child support. I could talk about child support all day long. Now,
I'm sure that's a fun topic.
It is a fun topic. So there's good and bad related to child support. So here we go. If you have child support arrears on your credit report, and for some reason those are not accurate, we can get those removed for you. So that's good news. The even better news is that even though we can get them removed from the credit report, you still owe the money. So that's the
Yes.
good news. Because we're not in the business of letting, people who have arrears and child support get away with it.
Yeah.
So the great news is, yes, we can get them removed from your credit report with erroneous information, but you still owe the money. That doesn't
Right.
change. So
Right.
there are certain trade lines that if they're on a credit report will stop the client actually getting a mortgage. There again, we deal with those type of clients as well. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, it absolutely does make sense. And I had no idea that that was even the case. I started getting into credit repair or the knowledge of what your credit score is. No one talked to me about that growing up. I didn't get into that until I was 24, maybe 24, 25 is when I finally looked at what my credit score was. I was like, oh, this is kind of important information about me. Why did no one talk to me about this until I was 25? But those are like fascinating nuances to it, but they make complete sense. Your analogy of you go up to somebody on the street and they're like, hey, can I have $1,000? And you're like, yeah, but tell me about yourself. And if they have nothing to tell me, then I'm like, well, I'm a little bit more weary of lending you $1,000 if I don't know you can pay me back.
Now, imagine, Marcus, imagine that you were getting approached by 100 people a day or 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
You need some system to determine who is it worth lending to and who it's not worth lending to.
Yeah.
Going back to your subject, I have two sons. My second son is 16 years of age. He's at school. Great kid, A student all day long. He suffers, unfortunately, from gym. Gym is where he gets his bad grade from because he's a nerd. He's a computer nerd. He's not a gymnast or doesn't like me. I was the other way around. I loved gym. I hated everything else. He's the opposite. So, I get his report card and I'm used to opening it up and it's A, and like U for useless for gym. So this is my thought. Okay. By the way, I asked him, how can you get such a bad grade in gym? What is it that you actually do in gym that gives you such a bad grade? And he said to me, well, we don't really do anything. The teacher lets us in the gym and then disappears and then comes back at the end of the period. So
really,
it just doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. So here's the thing, Marcus, going back to your comment. Why the hell do they put gym in the agenda instead of something like a financial education?
Yes.
And
Why?
I think they're starting to do that in Florida.
Yes.
They have. Great. Good job, Florida. Great job. Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story of my cousin? I don't want to bore you guys, but okay,
no, I don't think so.
Here's a story. So my mother, God bless her, is 94 years of age.
Wow.
And she is an identical twin. And when I say identical, they look the same, they talk the same, they act the same. There's only one small difference. And that difference at the moment is around about $2.4 billion.
Wow.
I'll say that again, $2.4 billion. Now, because I'm here on a Friday at 9 o'clock in the morning, I think it's pretty safe to suggest it's not my mother that's got the money, it's my auntie. So, and by the way, just as a go, the two women cannot be in a room at the same time. They literally hate each other.
Really?
Well, you can kind of, I grew up with it and I didn't really understand it until I was a little bit more mature. But look at it this way. Imagine there are two Marcuses or two Natashas. Okay. You both look the same, you act the same, you dress the same. One of you is really wealthy. And unfortunately, my mother was pretty poor and my mum and dad, they struggled in life. So when you put the two together, the one who's wealthy thinks that the other one is always complaining because she's got no money. And the one who's got no money thinks that the one who's wealthy has no idea what life is like. So anyway, the story's not about them. It's actually about one of the sons of my auntie. So this was just before I left England. They had a big, I think it was a wedding anniversary or something. And they had a huge tent in their back garden and invited around about 500 people. And the tent wasn't even a quarter full. So it was a huge event. And I wasn't too eager to go. I had other things to do, but my mother talked me into it. So I went. and I arrived a little bit late. So as I walk into the tent, my cousin, that's my wife's son, greets me at the door. This is an 11-year-old kid, by the way, bear that in mind. So he's 11 years of age. So his name is Aaron. So as I see him, I say, oh, Aaron, I'm so glad you're here. Can you do me a favor? I'm carrying around a wallet and a couple of things. Can I just give them to you and you put them in the house? And later on, when the party's over, you know, you can give me them back. And he said, sure, Steve, absolutely. So he takes my wallet. No kidding, this is what happened. He takes my wallet and he opens it up. And he sees a couple of credit cards in the wallet. So he takes out one of the credit cards and he looks at it for a minute, and I'm watching him, 11 years of age. And he says to me, Uncle Steve, the APR on this credit card is 17.7%. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you.
At 11 years old?
11 years old.
That's
the APR
awesome.
on this is 17 point blah, blah, blah. You're far better getting the sister card where the interest rate there is about 11%. 11 years of age. Now,
Whoa.
although that's a funny story to tell, it's actually indicative of something very important, and I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid and I sat down to have dinner with my parents, my mum always insisted we sat down and ate dinner together. We talk about TV shows, we talk about sport, we talk about what's going on, you know, about the next door neighbors. That's what we did. We all loved each other and it was great fun. My 11-year-old nephew, when they sat down with his brother and his sister, they got an education on finance.
Yep.
That's the difference. Because, you know, we're in an unfair world. So many of us don't understand the financial systems and how they work, but actually it's just a game. If you remember that, it's just a game. It's like Monopoly.
You know,
so,
I
you know,
to my son about finances, or because he has this credit card, it's called Greenlight credit card.
Yeah.
And basically what you do is you have your list of chores for the kids, and you can either decide to pay the children based off them completing the chores, or you can just say, I'll pay them whatever, $5 per week, and it gets deducted from your checking account and goes into their debit card. But their debit card can be used for both spending and saving and investing. So he and I talk about this all the time, and we talk about like how his college fund is evolving and all of this stuff. And he really likes talking about it with me. So
good job. But the problem is, and I don't blame the parents here, because it's a generational curse, if you like. How can you sit down and talk about finance to your kids when you know nothing about finance?
Yeah.
So for too long, too many people have been deprived an education on how the financial system works. And that's why it's so uneven.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you know, when we talk about debt, just as an example, debt is a horrible thing. Debt, get rid of all my debt, get rid of all my debt. Smart people know that there are different types of debt, and sometimes it's actually valuable to carry a certain amount of debt.
Yep.
So it's all about educating as many people as possible so we're all on an even playing field.
You know, speaking of that, we were talking to our financial advisor the other day, and we've been aggressively paying off our mortgage, and I've been wanting to pay it off early. And she said, no, actually stop doing that. Keep paying your mortgage at whatever is the allotted amount per month. But with those excess funds, we're actually going to like max out your IRAs or your 401ks. And that way in 10 years, you have $150,000 additional money set aside in your investments rather than paying off your mortgage. And it blew my mind. And it makes me, but she's like, if it really makes you super uncomfortable, go ahead and pay off your mortgage. But if you can stomach it, you know, put in this investment. And I go, can we do like half and half? Because it makes so that's what we came to the conclusion that we would do 50-50.
There you go. It's a win. But, you know, I'd just like to end on this particular point while we're talking about this, is that I've noticed, I've been in the credit repair and financial industries now for over 20 years. And if you ask me, what is the biggest change that you've seen over the last 5 years? And this really makes me happy to share this, is I've seen a huge rise in the African American community.
Awesome.
huge rise. They're entrepreneurs, they're owners of credit repair businesses. These are smart people who are grasping the metal and rising up. And that makes me really happy, because to me, the African American community has been the bottom of the pile when it comes to getting financial education. So I can't speak highly enough of learning this stuff and applying it to live a better life. And if
Yeah.
your dream is to buy a house, they say the ultimate American dream is to be a homeowner. And I get that all day long. It's like anything, you've got to put in the work.
Yep.
Make sure that you've got a good credit score, make sure that your debt to income ratio is in line, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things are preparing you for the type of life that you want to live, if that makes sense.
Yep. And we just had a gal on, I think it was 3 weeks ago here in Wisconsin, she's on her like 5th or 6th house here. And she's going to buy 2 more in St. Louis. And she was like, I didn't come from any sort of background of owning property. It was more like generational thing. She grew up in rentals, and
Right.
she got a bug and was like, I'm diving in, I'm doing real estate. And her and her husband are on, I think, property 10 is what they're going for by the end of the year.
Awesome.
Self-made, super happy. She still holds her W-2 job while doing this on the side.
Fantastic.
Like, she's a power woman for sure.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I
but she
love
was
those
all
stories.
sorts of happy about and proud of what she did, which rightfully so. Like, not having anybody in her close network or close sphere guiding her, saying like, here's avenues you can take your funds, this is where you can take things, just to go in. Her first step was it wasn't I always call it NACA, which is like a organization for people that either have bad credit reports, that work with their current financial situation in terms of getting them approved. She went to one of those meetings, and they had somebody there that talked about credit, and that was like the spark that just took off with her.
Well, because
That is awesome.
A grant through them as well, or something.
Yeah, she got a grant for her down payment for her first house.
Yeah.
Awesome.
like
What a
3 or 4
great
grand.
story.
Yeah.
But the thing is that story is really points to the fact of someone going after information, applying the information, and it turning out to be a winner. The challenge with social media is this: there's a lot of noise. You go onto YouTube, just spend 10 minutes in YouTube and go down that maze. There's a lot of noise everywhere. So if you are really focused and centered, you can find out the information that you're looking for.
Yep.
But unfortunately, as soon as you turn on that computer button and start getting on the internet, that you can go all over the place without accomplishing anything. Whole weeks and years can pass by. So it's knowing where to get the information from and applying it accordingly, if that makes sense.
That's deciphering the information. There was something on Instagram I saw last week. There was a guy going through what I would imagine to be like a Starbucks drive-through. And he's like, the problem with information these days is you have no idea what's right or wrong. You could probably go on Google and type in coffee causes blindness. So he went on his phone and found that coffee causes blindness. And he's like, the worst thing is you can Google coffee causes great eyesight. And he Googled that, and they found articles about how coffee causes great eyesight. And he's like, we have no idea what to think, and we wonder why we're all confused.
Well, I think the answer to that, and by the way, I'm guilty of it as well. So, hey, is usually people, just say, for instance, you want to watch a video on coffee. You tune into the video on coffee, and that's the first video, and it's about 3-4 minutes long. You watch that, and you take that specific thing as gospel until you see something that's contrary to that, which is very confusing, I know. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get back to the boring topic of credit repair.
Credit repair. So for most of our audience, I'm just guessing that there's not a long history of credit repair knowledge in their back pocket. So to tune in and to listen to experts like you in terms of getting credit repair, what would you give them in terms of, let's say, like timeline or where would they start? What would be their best starting position if on the horizon they're thinking about buying their first house?
I think, first of all, so many people, especially our clients that come to us, have zero idea about credit repair. Zero.
So get that out, get the fear off of people. Say like
Yeah.
everybody you deal with is in the same boat.
Okay. And by the way, people, if you're watching this, Credit Karma and Credit Sesame are not the answer. They are not. Do not waste your time with Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. Let me tell you briefly why. Credit Karma and Credit Sesame are both free apps on the internet, and they give you a score. I think Credit Karma gives you 2 scores. I think Sesame gives you 1.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure anyway. Okay, the scores that you are looking at from Credit Karma and Credit Sesame are known as Vantage scores.
Okay.
Vantage is a very old method of scoring, which,
And
by the way,
I
sorry,
think
go on.
Credit Karma gives you TransUnion and Equifax.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there are
Yes.
different models of credit. Oh, right, thank you.
Yes.
But there
Yep.
are different models. So the Credit Karma and Credit Sesame use something called Vantage, which is as much use to you as they would say in England, a chocolate fire guard, which you can think about that later. Don't worry about it. It's
I'll
as much
Google that
use
one
as a
after the
chocolate
show.
fire. Okay. So they're no use to you. So why do they exist in the first place? Well, they are not a credit bureau app. They are a marketing app. So when you get on Credit Karma and Credit Sesame, they give you scores and then they say, hey, you should be applying for this card.
This
or
credit
this
card.
Right.
Yep.
Every time you apply or click on that button, they make money. That's why they don't charge you. They're a marketing company. Okay.
I was wondering where they made their money.
That's where they make it.
Everything free. And this is
Yes.
something that I learned from my dad so early. He like pounded this in my head. Absolutely nothing in the world is free. Nothing is free. You are going to see signs all over the place. Free this, free that. It's not free.
He's right.
It's free to you. But somebody down the road is making money somewhere. In our
That's right.
society, it's capitalist. There's going to be money made somewhere. You just need to find out where it is. And then my first experience for myself was using mint.com, that budgeting app.
Yep.
It's free, right? It's free to you, but they sell your email to literally everybody. So you just get spammed with emails, and that's where they make their money.
And your dad's right. He's 100% correct. Who would open a company and not want to make money? I mean, unless you were a charity or something like that. But
Right.
you're absolutely right. It's just guessing where the source of income comes from. So
Right.
having said that, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to move apartment. Okay. What you need is something called FICO scores, FICO. You've probably seen them all over the place. That's the scoring model that most lenders actually use, FICO. So when a client signs up with us to have credit repair, we want to see their FICO scores. So we lead them to a company called MyScoreIQ, which, by the way, costs to get your credit report, updated credit report, 3 scores, FICO Bureau, costs around about $35 a month. We have a special deal with them where we charge $27 a month. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, they want to monitor their credit report, you can give me a call or email me and I'll give you the link and you can sign on that way. Okay, so now you're looking at your report. First of all, there are 3 bureaus you should know. Most people know them: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Those are the 3 credit bureaus. Now the question is, you open up your app and you can see your score. The question is, how do they arrive at the score that you're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
So I always have to explain this to people from the beginning so they get a better understanding. So there are 5 different elements that go to make up your credit score. And let me run through them very briefly. So
I'm interested because I have no idea what the minimum is 400.
Minimum. No, you can actually have below 400, and actually you can have no score whatsoever.
Oh,
the
really?
credit doesn't want enough scores, you can get a 0.
I wasn't sure if it was like the SAT where you get points just for putting your name on it. Like you're born and you get a score.
Doesn't work that way. But here's how it's broken down. So 30% of your score is reflected by the amount of debt that you have. So what do I mean by that? I don't mean in terms of money, I mean as a percentage. So let me give you an example. You have a Visa card, it's got a credit limit of $1,000 and you spent 500 of that $1,000. That means you're at 50%.
Mhm.
Spend 300, that means you're at 30%. 100 means you're at 10%. Okay, so in order to get a maximum score, obviously the lower that amount of debt, the better. So typically, make sure that your debt doesn't go over 30% overall.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to hit the 700 or 800s, you've got to keep that all the way down to 7%. And it's quite ironic if you think about it, because credit is all about giving money to people who don't need money. Think about it for a minute.
Yep.
Giving money to people who don't need money. People that do need money don't qualify for the money. Weird, but that's the way it works. And by
Yeah.
the way, business credit is completely the other way around. But back to what I was saying. So the amount of debt counts for 30% of your overall credit score. Your length of credit history, in other words, when did you get your first credit card or your first loan? The longer, the better. And that's obvious because lenders want to see a sustained history of you making good payments on your credit. That accounts for 15% of your overall score.
And what I'm curious about, because Natasha mentioned it, I'll bring it up. That card that you have for your son, I was looking into that for my son as well. But my big question with that is, does that report as a credit card where you can start building up some credit history? Because that's what I'm interested with my son. I want to start him up a bank account.
Marcus,
He
let
had-
me help. Marcus, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
But let me interrupt on this one. If you go to our website, www.compassionatecreditrepair.com, go to our website, click on the link that says resources. You will see there a loan and a credit card. Both of those report to all three bureaus and put your points up 25, 30 points within about 30 days.
Okay.
So if where I would advise your kids to start is absolutely there. That's where I started with my kids.
Okay.
So I have
So-
a question.
Yeah, sure.
I obviously have credit cards. I have put my son as an authorized user on one of my credit cards. Is that something that you can do, or is that
Absolutely. I'm going to get to that. Great point. Great point, Natasha. So one of the ways to increase or boost your score, the most legal, legitimate way, is to actually become an authorized user. So what is an authorized user? Well, I think Natasha just went through it there. And Natasha's, say, is my mum. Sorry, actually my daughter.
Made me feel really
I'm
old.
old enough to be your
Birthday's like
granddad.
2 weeks. Come on, guys.
Okay. But just imagine Natasha's my mom. I'm 20 years of age, haven't got any credit, don't know what to do. All Natasha does is she gets her credit card with the longest history, and you've got to make sure that you've been paying it on time and you haven't used up too much of it.
Mhm.
And she puts me as an authorized user. The benefit of that is I get the benefit of her trade line and it adds to my score. So yes, the same applies to you, Marcus. If you've got good credit lines, put your son or your daughter as an authorized user, that reflects on their credit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah,
what
and
I
that
was
was the
talking,
concept. Is there, and I might be stepping too far, is there a difference between an authorized user and then I've heard, and I don't know because I haven't researched much on it, but they call them riders. You could be a rider on someone else's lines on their credit.
I've got to be honest, I've never heard,
No?
forgive me, I've never heard a rider, but it sounds like the same. Yes, it sounds like
Okay.
the same thing. You'll
Okay.
see it on a credit report all the time, AU. Now, I'm gonna reach out here to mums and dads that are thinking of doing this for their kids, or even elder kids to help them out of a squirrel. There are so many times where I have seen people with good credit come to me for credit repair. Reason being, they made their son or their daughter an authorized user, and then they did the stupid thing and actually physically gave them the card.
Oh.
God.
Do me a favor, guys. Do not give a card to a kid who doesn't know how to use it, or just goes out and spends it, because you will be hurting too. So you can make them an authorized user. When the card comes, you keep it. Don't give it to the child
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the kid, just to make sure. And I say this to everybody, but you'd be amazed how many people get in trouble because of exactly that reason. But yes, an authorized user trade line will definitely benefit them and boost them. Getting certain secured credit cards that report to 3 bureaus. The ones that we've got on our site report to all 3. That's why they're very important.
Those
So,
secure
yeah.
cards came
Yeah.
in, so like I had to do a whole credit repair, and I basically started at the ground again. I was up near like 750, 760, went down to like 4 something, and then slowly built it back up. And one of the ways that I did build it back up was that secure card. I basically gave them $100. They gave me $500 of a credit line, and I would just completely cycle that through months, every month after
There
month
you go.
after month, and it slowly climbed up.
Right. And it's a great way of doing it. It's a responsible way, and it helps you learn credit. And some of these secured cards, by the way, after a period of time will turn into unsecured, just so you know. So if you keep paying and you're a good client, after a while, they'll release the security aspect to make it an unsecured card. So again, that's also important. 10% as well of your credit score looks at new credit that you've just got. 10% looks at the credit mix. So having all credit cards is not necessarily a good way to go. They want to see that you can use revolving credit. They want to see that you can use all different types of credit. So a loan is a good way to go if you've got all credit cards. And again, you could look at secured loans. And 35% of that is your payment history. Now, 35% is the biggest number of all. So the bureaus look at your payment history. Have you been paying on time? Do you have any lates, et cetera, et cetera? Now, before we started the podcast, Marcus, you mentioned to me, are there any changes in the industry coming up? And there is one pretty big one that's on the horizon. When it's going to come down, not quite sure, but people have been talking about it for a few years now, and it's looking nearer and near reality. And it's something called FICO 10. See, every FICO version has a different number. There's FICO 8, FICO 9, FICO 10. So FICO 10 is not ready yet, but when it is, it's going to change how your credit is actually reported. Let me explain. They're now going to look at the payments that you make on your credit card every month. Not just are you paying on time, they're going to look at your payments. So for instance, if you have a credit card with a $5,000 debt on it, and the minimum payment on your credit card is, say, $100, and you pay that $100, in other words, you're paying the minimum, your score is going to drop.
Even for making just the minimum.
Yeah, especially for
Okay.
making the minimum.
Okay.
So there's going to be big changes. People that think they qualify for things, when FICO 10 comes around, it's going to be a complete change. So there's also talk about Biden wanting to abolish the 3 credit bureaus and centralize them all. And that's been going on, to be honest with you, even before he was elected.
And centralized meaning that the credit
Yeah.
reports would then come from the government rather than.
Yeah, well, either the government or a third party. But
Okay.
what people don't know is that when we do credit repair, we deal with the 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and we dispute negative trade lines. That's what we do for a living. So what happens if a few months go by, we're disputing all these things, and the bureaus refuse to remove them, even though the evidence is right in your face? What do we do? So here's what we do. We get in touch with the CFPB, Consumer Finance Protection Board. They are the ones that monitor the 3 bureaus. So if the CFPB say to the 3 credit bureaus, you're out of time, you've got to take this off, you've got to do it, They have to do it. They don't have another choice. So there is a thought, and I've heard this gaining traction, whether it's right or not, that it would come under the CFPB. Again, not 100% convinced about anything, but everything's a possibility, so to speak. So the thing is about credit roundabout now, and I try very hard not to be a doomsday prepper, is that look around the world and look at what's happening, guys. I mean, just stop what you're doing and look what's happening. The world is going nuts, like nuts in a handbag.
Yeah.
In my old country, the United Kingdom, they just announced yesterday, listen to this, that electricity bills are going to go up 70%, 70.
Wow.
Really?
You think we're far behind here? We're not. Are we headed for inflation? Who knows? But bear in mind that the events in the Ukraine are going to have a knock-on effect. Now, take that out of the way. Take Ukraine, Russia. This is not a political podcast, and I don't intend it to be, but take those events out of the way. I don't think we've fully recovered from COVID. I really don't. I know everybody's maskless and, hey, whoa, party time. You know what? I mean, I'd love it to be true. I just don't think it is.
Yeah.
Now, if you take that and you take the state of business and you take the fact that Russia, again, just back to Russia for a minute, is well known at hacking various financial institutions in the United States of America.
Hey guys, I gotta head off. Sorry.
No, that's all
okay.
right.
That's all right, Natasha. Bye, Natasha.
Bye.
If you take events that are happening around the world, the question is, what are you going to do to survive even financially? And if your credit is poor and you have no savings, you really don't have any get outs, to be honest with you. You really don't.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think you're right on, we haven't recovered fully from COVID. It's a testament to how fragile our society or our I'll put like our economics is. It's a fragile ecosystem, and once one of the legs drop out, in COVID's case, like 3 of the legs drop out of the stool, and you're left to one thing, it takes a while to build that back and to become sustainable and more level. Because right now we're just up and down. Every day is a turn up or down.
Right. Absolutely
So
right. Well, to my mind, you know, when I talk about wealth or even safety of finances, to me, it's about one thing, and that's access to money.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. With good credit, you have lots of access. Bad credit, no access, or very minimal access and extremely high interest rates. So to me, credit is the be all and end all, or the foundation of how you live your financial life. You know, I can't stress it enough. If you have a 700 credit score, 720, you know, I have a 720. So say, Marcus, God forbid, you have a 600. We can both go look at cars. I can pick a car out. I don't even have to put a deposit down. You, my friend, have to put a ton of money down.
Yep.
And when you get the car, I'll probably be paying 1/8 of the price that you're going to be paying for it.
Yep.
So credit makes a difference. If you want to move apartment, every apartment complex runs your credit.
Absolutely.
If
They
you
should,
can't-
at least. If they don't, they should.
They should. They're right.
And
So
I always
yeah.
get on the topic of, and I talked to my son about this too, like, as much as you may not like your credit score, how much time and energy have you spent to developing it? Like, if you get the shock factor of like, oh my gosh, I only have a 600 credit score. Well, yeah, but it's a number. What have you done to this point to do anything with it? If nothing, then like you can't get mad at it, because like in your instance, if you're asking somebody for money, they want to know if you're going to pay it back, and they need to have some sort of idea. So it's not the credit score that's the problem. You're not upset at the credit score. You might be upset at your effort that you put towards it. But now's the time where you know where you're at, and now you can start building it. If you want to play, like you said, that game, like if you want to jump into this game of credit, jump in. Everybody can play. Some people choose not to, and then they get mad at the people who play the game. But it's there for you.
Well, it's kind of it's funny. You're exactly right what you say there. You hit it on the head. You know, I never am too critical of people who don't know their credit score or don't look at credit, because I'm the same way when it comes to doctors. You know, my leg can be falling off and I will not go to a doctor. It's a British thing, I think. You know, hey Steve, your leg's hanging off. Oh, is it? Okay, all right.
Oh, I
fine.
didn't even notice.
That's how people are with credit. That's exactly how people are with credit. You know, so I can't be too critical of them, but I want to explain to them that if you have a 700 credit score and I open my mailbox every day, 700 plus, I get so many offers from all these credit companies offering me 0% interest. Zero.
Yeah.
You know, think about it. Now, really smart entrepreneurs, and there are a lot of them, and they're gaining a lot more traction on the internet, will take that credit card with a 0% interest rate and they will make money off of it.
Yep.
See?
There's a lot of people that would get that 0% credit card, use that as a down payment, and then pay it off, and then it's free money.
So I can't stress enough about how important it is to get your credit in order. And I'm not just saying that because I own a credit repair company. I think that really it's the basis, as I said, of your foundation, of your financial foundations. So even now, more and more employers are actually looking at credit reports before they hire people, specifically for responsible positions.
Mm-hmm.
So credit is creeping into every single factor in our lives. Now, let's go back to house buying for a minute. So I remember my parents got their first and only house. They had it for about 2 years, I think, before I was born. Which is a long time ago. Obviously, look at me, you can tell. But anyway, I remember my dad telling me how they got the house, and it was quite an interesting story. So they spent 3 days and I'm not kidding you, in the company of their bank manager. 3 days. Imagine going to your bank manager for 3 days. And the bank manager wanted to know all about them. What do they do? Where do they come from? Blah, blah, like 3 days. And then he made a decision on whether he'd grant the mortgage or not. Now, a branch manager, you're lucky if he spends more than 3 minutes with you, because he looks at a credit report.
Yep.
That's the decision that a responsible lender makes. They look at credit reports. And by the way, if you have a business and you want business credit, guess what? In 99% of the cases, they look at your personal credit as well.
Mm-hmm.
That even from a business perspective, it's important to get your facts in order. Now, just one more thing, Marcus, going back to what you said. I totally agree with everything you said, except for one small exception. In the, people might not know this, but in your credit reports, 3 bureau credit reports, over 70%, that's 70, over 70% of all entries on every credit report are wrong, incorrect, or false. Did you know that? 70%.
I didn't know the percentage, but I knew a lot of them, a heavy majority, were incorrect, which is why disputes, I didn't know you could dispute anything until I was 24.
Yeah.
I thought it was just on there and you're like, well, you're screwed, deal with it. And then I find out that you can actually go to people and they can dispute and get it off your record. And I was like, again, no one for 25 years has told me this.
That's and the basis of that, by the way, is a little law called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And that actually says you can challenge the bureaus to remove the negative items based on their falsification. Now, you probably can spot it in a minute. If you have a credit report in front of you, or you're looking at a credit report, you see the 3 bureaus and you check all 3, which is easy to do, you'll see that on certain lines, you owe certain different amounts of money. They're recording in different ways. That's why you have 3 different scores. You know, you might say, well, why don't you just have 1 score? Well, they're all different. If you have a difference on any trade line, guess what? It should be deleted from your credit. It should be deleted because it's a falsification. So that's the basis of how we start challenging, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. And I think the big part, and I think what's going to help people, there's always like a bad connotation with credit, and you don't want to talk about it. Like going back to your story about your aunt, that family, that little ecosystem, they let down the guard, the walls of being able to talk about credit scores and finances. But in 90% of the US, like no one wants to talk about it because no one wants to feel not worthy or lesser than somebody else because their score is higher.
And I feel like
It's
it's
like-
so taboo right now too. Like,
Well,
anyone
yeah.
talk about anything.
I'll
Well,
admit, I was down to like 400 during the worst part of it. Like I think my worst was 425. But that was due to like personal circumstances where debt was piled on my name from something that I couldn't control. And it was just working back. I had no fear of telling people where I was at. Because at that time I was trying to buy houses and they're like, you are insane. Your credit score is awful. And I'm like, I know, but it'll get better. But I think once we get that out of the way of people fearing talking to you or talking to other people about credit scores and finances, and it's not people are looking at you or looking down at you at what you're doing, but you're talking to people that actually are like, okay, well, I have an avenue that you might be able to help. Call Steve. He'll be able to help you with that.
Right.
And it's not like a negative conversation. I think more and more people will start picking up on it and it'll become more of a sought after. You go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school. In high school, you start getting your credit repaired. You can choose to go to college. I think it's just going to be a life step for people rather than only a certain amount of people do this.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, well, first of all, it's like back to the leg hanging off syndrome. Remember, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
You know, if my leg's hanging off, I don't want to talk about it. So, hey, I get it. You know, let me just talk about credit for a minute and address your point because it's a great point, Marcus. Truly great point. Excuse me. So, my background, I think I told you, was in the mortgage industry. What I didn't tell you was in 2006, I owned 8 different properties in Southern California in 2006. I had money coming out my pocket like you wouldn't believe. I was in the mortgage industry. It was a big mortgage boom, if you remember.
Yep.
And I was wealthier than Larry. I'd go to the big restaurants in LA and I'd hire the whole restaurant, invite everybody in my company to come join me. I was the big guy on campus. 2 years later, I owned 0 properties and I was homeless. I'll say that again. I was homeless. Why? Because I was making a lot of money, but my credit was all over the place. I wasn't paying attention to it. And if you're in an industry where you're making a lot of money, you think that it's going to last forever and ever. Stupid me, it certainly didn't. And 2008 was the crash. And I wasn't the only one, by the way, who was homeless. A lot of people I speak to in the mortgage industry went through the same thing. And it was at that stage when I hit rock bottom, a little bit like you, Marcus, like we were talking about, is when I started to think about the principles of money. And I stopped thinking like a poor man and more like a person who had a vision and wanted to really grow financially.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't. We don't think about the future. We only think about the now. And that's why I call the company Compassionate Credit Repair, because unlike most credit repair companies, if you come to me with really, really bad credit, guess what? I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been where you've been. So I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to say, wow, that was stupid, because I've been there. And that's why we call the company Compassionate Credit Repair. But the thing is, when you say we don't talk about it, I agree. We don't talk about it. Or let me put a little emphasis on that. People in the lower echelons financially do not talk about it.
Yes.
Trust me when I say that. As we just said, you know, people in the higher echelons, it's a way of life, you know. So listen, to me, credit is the be all and end all of how you start your financial life. What you do with that is up to you. So I'll briefly tell you a quick story here. So we had a lady who actually is a loan officer, I won't tell you her name, but she's actually a loan officer. And she was referring clients to me for credit repair. And she called me one day and she said, Steve, I'm really ashamed to say this, but guess what? I need credit repair myself. So I said, okay, fine. So we started working on a file. Now, when we got her file, her mid credit score was 410, 410. Within 9 months, we got her to 700.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Hold on, story's not over. We got her to 700. Do you think she was excited? If you check out the internet and our company, she's all over I won't tell you her name, but she's all over the internet. These people are great. They made my credit great. I'm 700 on blah, blah, blah. But she did a really dumb thing.
Oh,
She
no.
didn't listen to advice. And I said to her, you know what? The key is not getting to a 700 score. The key is keeping that 700 score.
Mhm.
The minute she heard she had 700, she went berserk. She went out and bought a new car. She moved apartment. She did this, she did that. 6 months later, she came back to us with a 500 credit score. So it's not about achieving a number. It's about maintaining a number to
Mhm.
maintain a lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
total. Makes total sense.
So, it just impacts so many aspects of your life. And, listen, I could go on and on, but I'm guessing that a lot of your viewers will already know this. I'm not teaching them anything new, especially if they're realtors or loan officers, because that's the way their business works. Good credit score, they can do something. Bad credit score, they can't.
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of the agents even here know. They would reach a client, be like, hey, your credit score is low. I don't think you get approved. They don't get the pre-approval. And then I guess short-sighted, they're like, well, we can't work together. And then they move on. Instead
You're
of
right.
like, hey, you still want to work with me, I still want to work with you. Call Steve. We'll talk in 6 months.
Yeah, but Marcus, you're absolutely right. So I'm just thinking about whether I should tell you a dirty joke now or not, but maybe
You
not.
have to. You have to now.
it brings to mind that it's an old sales story. So
And we did preface it. So if there are kids in the car when you're listening,
Turn it
fast
off.
forward a little bit.
Okay, so there's two bulls at the top of a hill, and they look down the hill and they see a bunch of cows. So the young bull says to the old bull, let's run down the hill and fuck one of those cows. And the old bull says, no, let's walk down the hill and fuck them all. That's the difference between a good salesperson and a very average salesperson. A good salesperson understands medium to long term. They understand that if they put a client into credit repair, it's probably going to take about 6 months before that client qualifies. So what they're doing is they're building a funnel that 6 months later, the client will come out of fully qualified. But most realtors, and I don't mean to sound critical, but a lot of realtors and loan officers do exactly what you say, Marcus. If it's not a now, forget it. Sorry, your credit score is 600, can't help you, go away and fix it, come back.
Yep.
Now, I have a loan officer who learned a brilliant lesson from this. So he was a loan officer who came to me about 4 years ago. And he said to me, Steve, can you help me? I've got a few clients here that need credit repair. So we started talking, and this is what he was doing. He was a new loan officer, new to the business. His company weren't giving him any leads, so he found a local lead provider. And this lead provider sold this guy leads that were blind leads. In other words, you got everything about the client apart from the client's credit score. So he bought them cheaply. He wanted to make some sales. So I said, roughly how many of those leads are subprime? And he said, around about 90%, 90. Okay. So I said, okay, well, let's start working together. Let's see how it goes. Now, in his first year as a loan officer in Boston, and I'm going back 4 years ago, he made $38,000 in his first year. And he contacted me in November of that year. Last year, and he told me this, he called me up, he was very excited. He's just finished his taxes. he made $290,000. Now, I'm not claiming for 1 minute that that was totally due to us, but I will tell you 50% of that was totally due to us, because he understood the
awesome.
process of putting people in a funnel, being patient, keep working, and then 6 months later, they're coming out of that funnel. So now you got fully qualified clients who, and by the way, they loved him. They loved him to death because of the work that we'd
They
done.
helped. They helped him. They came to him for
Yeah.
help, and he didn't directly help, but you helped him help them.
Right. And now you've got a client who's more loyal to you than any client you've just met right at the beginning with a 700 credit score.
Yeah.
So there are so many benefits attached to, to working with us, that a loan officer or a realtor who wants to make real money understands the precept of building the funnel, taking your time, tickling it, loving it, and just being patient. That's what selling's about. It's not about bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
unless you're a Wall Street
As much as you see
trader.
it on Instagram, that's not the case.
No, it's not the case. It's not the case. And think about it for a minute. Buying a house is a time-consuming effort on behalf of the person who's buying the house, on behalf of the realtor, on behalf of the loan officer. You have to maintain that sense of loyalty all the way through the process.
Yeah.
So you have a client who's actually been through credit repair. Now they've got great credit. They're excited. They love you because you made the recommendation. It's a winner. I would say my clients are better than clients you just met. So, again, people understand that. If you've been a realtor for a while, you get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I would say that your clients probably are better off than the normal. All right, we want to buy a house. We're renting right now. Income's great. Their credit's good. I'm just going to go for ballpark. Their 700 isn't the same 100 as your client. Their 700 isn't the same as 700 with you, because with you, their 700, they know the information behind it. The other 700, they're like, I don't know. I just have 700.
That's true. That's very true.
So I would say the knowledge behind that would benefit them a lot more.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
One
And
last
realtors,
question.
by the way, realtors have it real lucky in one sense. And I bet they've never even thought about this, in that you have a client who buys a house and you're the realtor. They buy the house and in the first 6 months, they default on the mortgage. You don't have to give your commission back.
That is
I
true.
just thought about that now.
That is
It's
true.
the only financial job where if your client defaults, you don't have to give back your commission.
I picked correctly.
There you go. All right, sorry.
I do have one last question, and I know, Tasha, you had to go, and we're coming up on our hour, so I apologize. But one big topic, especially for buyers now who are the younger generation, is the ever revolving door of educational debt, tuition. Is there anything that you guys do or come across with massive amounts of credit card debt with the younger generation, and how that could help, or things they could do?
Funnily enough, that's a great question. I've never really thought about it.
Because that is, overwhelming. You were talking before about it being a generational thing. Like, I'm picturing, so my mom, she is a wizard at saving. She will save money and save and coupon, and she'll go into Menards, buy $200 of stuff, and she walked out getting paid $5. So
Wow.
she is a wizard with that, but she got that because she grew up in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, with 6 siblings. Mom stayed at home. Dad worked like 3 jobs during Depression. They pickled everything. She's just a wizard with the saving side, and her generational background gave her that knowledge. I know that we're going to go through, and as the parents, we're going to be sitting on more college debt than our parents, and probably less college debt than our kids.
Yeah.
Because I think the college is going to go down.
Yeah,
So we're in the generation of like, okay, watch out for tuition, because that is something that's going to stick on your record for decades.
Right.
And a lot of people now don't have a lot of income coming in, because you get out of college and you want that CEO job, but there's only how many in the US. So you're probably going to start somewhere lower than the president of a company.
Yeah.
So how do you manage your $100,000 of tuition debt, making 34, 36, 38,000 a year,
Right.
and still try to buy a house? And what are
Well,
some?
Right. Well, first of all, interestingly enough, some mortgage lenders do not count student loans as outstanding debt. I don't know if you know that.
I did
So
not know
that's-
that.
Yeah, but not all of them, but certainly a lot of them do. That's number one. Number two, if you have another 2 hours, we could do a completely separate podcast on today's generational youth, because I have 2 kids and I've turned into my dad. You know, I don't understand their music. I don't understand their language. Like one of my sons has his own YouTube channel, and I've
mine
watched
does
it.
too.
I just don't understand it.
I'm sure my son has watched your son's YouTube channel. He loves it.
Went viral the other day. It was crazy.
It is, but here's the thing. So I can't speak for every youth in America, but I do have a university graduate and I have a 16-year-old kid, and I know them and I know their friends, and I know the way that, well, I can't say I know the way that they think because it still bemuses me, but it's so very different from when we were kids. Because here's the thing, I don't know about you guys, but when I was 18, I was already thinking about moving out. I was thinking, okay, I went to university in my own hometown, and I did a law degree, which was the hardest degree. Why I picked law, I have no idea, because I fumbled my way through 3 years of university. But I wanted to get my own place. I wanted to get my own car. I wanted to get blah, 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 blah. I wanted everything. And I
Yeah.
realized that if I wanted those things, I got to get off my ass and actually work for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not being critical of the kids today, but they live in their bedrooms playing computer games. Seriously. I mean, I'm looking for see my kids for more than like 30 minutes a day, because that's the life. They don't want to move out because guess what? They've got internet access, they've got meals, they've got everything.
Yeah.
We cuddled our kids so much that they'll probably be with us until they're 80. So as a result of that, back to your original question, I don't see that many people, younger kids under the age of 30 with credit issues. And if they do have credit issues, they don't really care. I got to be honest with you. It's
Yeah.
a different generation. It's, listen, I don't speak for the kids of today, believe me. But there's just huge financial differences. And
Yeah.
they don't care about credit scores. They don't care about what car you drive, where you live, what clothes, well, maybe the clothes you wear, but they have different priorities to when we were kids.
Yeah.
Now, will it stay like that? I've no idea, but I do know the world is turning as we age, just like it did for our parents. Our
Yeah.
parents didn't understand us. I have 2 great kids, they're A students. My wife says this, they don't do drugs. They don't spend all night at bars. They're not into anything illegal or immoral. So guess what? They're good kids.
Yeah. In
That's how we class them.
like my son, he's on YouTube all the time. He plays Fortnite religiously. Like that is where he's at. And he's 7. So like I'm giving him a little bit of a break, but still like
You should be
gonna start-
working at 7.
that's what I said. When are you gonna start working? He's like, I don't want to go to school today. I'm like, well, get a job and then you don't have to go to school anymore. But right now your job is school, so you're gonna go to work. I don't stop him from playing video games because I try to guide it with him being 7 still into a way that he can learn. So if he's playing
Right.
Fortnite and he's like, Dad, can you come read this? I'm like,
Cool.
no, bud, you can
You
read.
read it.
Read it
Cool.
and figure it out. Oh, I want to buy such and such in the game. Okay, grab your wallet. Let's go buy you. And for Fortnite, they have V-Bucks. Call them V for Victor, V-Bucks. So we'd go to the store, he'd pull out his wallet, and we'd sit the V-Bucks on the floor in the middle of Pick and Save. And he's got his 4 cards laid out. And we're like, okay, so you can get 1,500 V-Bucks for $8. You can get 3,000 for $20. And he pulls out his wallet and he's like trying to put money to see like what tangibly it looks like that he's taking out of his wallet. And I've had like I've had people stop and like look. I've had one lady who said thank you, and I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I'm a math teacher, so
That's
thank
really
you for."
good.
And I was like, I just don't want him to think that he can go on and buy this stuff and it doesn't, like, the money just appears.
That's
Right.
great parenting. Great
So
parenting.
I'm trying to guide what he's interested in into him getting the knowledge base. And then eventually it's going to click where you can keep playing your video games, but like you've got to support that. So to support that, you need money. So you probably need a job.
Yeah.
And if you want to get to the store to buy that stuff, you probably need a car too.
You're probably
So-
right. So now you got me thinking, maybe I should be putting on financial classes for kids. I'm thinking about that now. As a
If
new
you can
angle.
tie it to YouTube and to video games, I'm sure they'd be all about it. That would be, I know Miles would be in. That I know. And we do that with toys and stuff too. He wants to go get a toy. I'm like, okay, grab your wallet, let's go.
That's cool.
And then he's in to see the thought process of him sitting there like, is this toy worth $10?
Right.
And like he doesn't have a background of what $10 can get him. So in his mind, with his glasses on, he's got a frame of mind of the world of what $10 is worth. And is that football worth $10? I don't know.
That's good. That's good that he's even thinking that. A lot of people don't think, they just make the purchase. If you've got a middle ground where he's actually thinking about what he's going to buy, at 7, that's awesome.
We're trying. We're trying.
All right, chatty Cathy's. I
Sorry.
hate
Oh, you're kicking us
I'm
out.
sorry, guys.
Well, this will be a good ending for next one because I think the next show, I think we do focus in on that younger generation.
Yes,
Maybe not
I agree.
7. I don't think Miles is buying a house anytime soon. But maybe like Natasha's son, who is almost to that point where, and I'm sorry to bring this up, leaving the house, starting the next chapter. I'm
No.
sorry. I'm
No.
sorry.
Is?
I'm
No,
sorry.
he's 9. He's gonna be 10. Like, stop.
Oh,
That's
that's old enough.
He's halfway there. He's
Yeah,
halfway
you-
there.
Oh, I know.
10 years old, he should have his own place by now. Come on,
Mhm.
Natasha.
I
No,
know.
I think we stick in that 20 to 35 range of our society, or the US at least, and see what we can do with them and what they're trending and doing. I think that would be a cool next show where we left off here.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So, hey, I've really enjoyed it. And just, if the name of my company is Compassionate Credit Repair, and if you want to speak to me directly, let me give you my number.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
It's 818-620-5317.
And the best way to get a hold of
818-620.
you is to call.
Yeah, to call me or text me. That's not the company line. That's actually my direct line. So it'll ring straight through to me.
Awesome.
And if I'm not there, leave a message and I promise I'll get back to you.
That's awesome. And that's a big, nice feature that you're offering, like the one-on-one contact with
Yeah.
anybody listening. We don't want to know about it. Go directly to Steve. The less hoops, the better. To get your next thing going, get your credit repaired, start doing some fun things with your finances.
Sure.
I know you mentioned it's a game, but it's a fun game.
It is a fun game.
It is a fun
If
game.
you're on top of it. If you're on the bottom of it, not so much fun. But
But
hey,
you'll
I've
get them
enjoyed-
there. You'll
I've
get
really
'em there.
enjoyed. Yeah, we will. We'll get them there. But I've enjoyed talking to you guys, and thank you very much. for
Absolutely.
having me.
We'll do it again for the younger generation so they can tune in.
Great job.
We'll
All
keep
right.
the dirty jokes off of it.
Have a
Bye.
good one, guys.
All right. Have a good
Enjoy.
weekend. Thank you.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.